The Home Office have expanded their scheme to pardon those previously unjustly charged with homosexual offences. Women can now also apply to have their criminal records cleared. Lesbians were not explicitly criminalised in the way gay men were, but were sometimes arrested under public indecency laws. The new plans will allow veterans to apply for convictions brought against them under service laws to be wiped. Emma Riley was a naval radio operator, was arrested and charged for being a lesbian in 1993. She managed to have her charges lifted in 2000 after appealing to the European Court of Human Rights, and she's with us now. Welcome to you, Emma.
Good evening. Good evening.
Thanks for joining us to tell us. Well, do tell us, Emma, your story and why you have obviously such a close personal interest in this news.
Well, my story, as you've alluded to, is from 1993. So I joined up in 1990 straight from school. I had no real understanding of what sexuality I was. I hadn't got any experience to dictate that, and I didn't really know what I was. But what I was absolutely wanting a career in the Royal Navy, and I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to be part of those amazing teams that you hear about. I wanted to belong somewhere, be part of a tribe, and to a degree I found some of that definitely happened for me. But what actually happened is that I had quite a bad period in 1993 when my father was really ill, and I'd become more and more sure that I was probably a gay person, even though I knew at the time that it was illegal to be gay in the military. And so I'd basically got to a point in time where my mental health wasn't particularly good. Now, one evening I went out with a person who I thought was my friend, and during that evening out, when I was feeling relaxed and I was thinking that they were going to be good to me, I basically told them that I thought I might be gay. And what happened was I got a knock on the door the next morning saying, "Get up, get dressed, get downstairs, you're under arrest." Now, they took me down, they interviewed me for 2, 3, 4 hours. I don't recall the exact length of time. I had a chief friend who was supposed to be my support in that, and all she was doing was just listening to my words when the tape recorder wasn't on and then repeating them as soon as the Special Investigation Branch came back in. They went through all of my belongings, they went through all letters, like some that were to a pen pal that were nothing to do with the Royal Navy. And what they were looking for was names that they could then chase down within the Royal Navy or other services to continue the witch hunt down the line. They confiscated things from my belongings, not just the letters, but stupid things like a Suede album cover that had 2 people on it that might or might not have been 2 women kissing, and a Julian Clary video of all things, because obviously, anybody who watches Julian Clary, the comedian, must be gay. So what happened after they'd gone through that whole day and got all of that done is that they segregated me from the person who'd reported me, but they still put me in the same block. They moved me away from the work, but I was still on the same base. I ate in the same mess. I saw them all the time. Everybody knew exactly what was happening to me. And the worst thing was they put me on a train and sent me back to tell my parents that not only was I probably going to be thrown out, but that I was gay. So they forced my coming out to my parents. Now, I'm incredibly lucky that when that happened to me, my parents were supportive, because certainly if they had not been, I would have had nowhere to go and nowhere to stay. And I know that veterans who have been treated exactly the same as me will have had that exact thing happen to them. They go back home and say to their parents, their families, their loved ones that this is happening, and they have nothing. They are thrown out onto the street and left to rot. Many veterans like me have not had good mental health since then. Some have had no pensions, no financial support, no support to actually retrain them for life in the outside world, basically. And definitely many have gone to the point where their lives they cannot continue with for one reason or another. So for me personally, this is a great change as far as legislation is concerned, in that it gives people like me the opportunity to go back and remove that stain from their records, so that in the future they don't have to provide that when they're going for a job interview or all the rest of it. And it's quite disappointing, to say the least, that it's taken this long for the government to recognise that actually women were caught up in all of this too. I
Yes.
suppose that's part of the patriarchal society that we live in, that of course the men have their legislation first, and as an afterthought the women get it. But yeah, it's, for me personally, it's quite a good change, just too late, and quite a lot of hoops that people have to go through to actually get it
Yeah.
done.
Emma, what an awful experience. It sounds like a story from the Victorian era. I mean, and you went on to fight your corner and win in front of the European Court of Human Rights. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, there were 7 years. What was it like living with that cloud over you, that shadow over you for those 7 years?
Well, it's not just 7 years, it's 30 years and counting. The first, what happened to me when I came out, I came home to nothing, no friends, no career, absolutely no idea what I was going to do with the rest of my life, because I just intended to be in the Royal Navy. So I had to redraw my entire map of the world with no support other than that of my family. So my years in those first sort of 5 years after I got thrown out were literally simply putting one foot in front of the other and working out from day to day, what am I going to do with it? I ended up starting doing filing work, because I could type and I could do the alphabet, and I worked my way up from there to a point where I had a reasonable job and I had a girlfriend for the first time. And at that point in 1998, I thought, right, this is the moment when I need to start doing something about it. So I phoned up Stonewall, and whoever I spoke to at that moment had really good information and gave me the information to go and see the solicitor that I talked to. So I took the Ministry of Defence to court in the UK,
Yeah.
and that didn't work, because there was precedent and various other things that meant that it wouldn't work. And so he suggested that we took it to the European Court of Human Rights. Now, I wasn't a headline case, that was the 4 headline cases from Rank Outsider, but my case, along with, I think there were about 30 or 40 others that were in at the same time, lent weight to those headline cases, so that by the time we got to the end of 1999, there was enough evidence and enough weight behind those headline cases for the European Court to actually rule in our favour. And
Yes.
frankly, I really think that if we hadn't done that, that law would have been still in place for another decade or more. Now,
Yeah.
you say effect, that was just the first 5 years to get to the point of doing that. It's 30 years, well, 25 years since I started even talking about this to anybody, and 30 years now since they threw me out, and it still affects me on a day-to-day basis. I'm kind of lucky in that I had enough support and my own personal resilience that I haven't fallen down a black hole of mental distress, and I've been able to forge some kind of career, even though it's been opportunistic, taking the opportunity as it arises rather than anything that's been planned.
Emma, what do you mean when you say this still affects you on a day-to-day basis now?
I have trust issues. It's taken me until I was in my mid-40s to be open enough to have a really fully open, trusting, loving relationship with somebody. I have a big problem with bullying. I mean, even so far as if I'm watching something on television that is, it's obviously a dramatization of something, but I find it quite distressing to watch that kind of thing. It's a visceral reaction to somebody being bullied in that sense. I think having come out of school and been bullied, and then been institutionally bullied in the way that I was, I find it just rubs so badly against this raw wounds that I always carry, that I can't continue watching it.
Yeah, but as I say, what a difficult story to hear, let alone live through. And you made a point earlier on about the legacy of these days and that situation under law. It's still the case then that the women like you are required to declare these offences for job applications.
Yes, exactly. Which is hugely unfair for anybody, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender, to be having to declare something which is no longer a crime under any of the legislation that is currently live. I mean, it's a nonsense to me why would you have to declare something like that when it's not something that's going to be illegal right now? And I know that the requirement is that you ask for this pardon. And it is always disappointing when these things come out that you have to actively make that step yourself, because the people who are in the position of having these convictions can quite often be very mentally damaged or untrusting of authority, so, unsurprisingly. So many, I'm sure, will not have come forward. I think I read that even before this change, under the original pardon scheme, only about 600 or so had actually applied, and out of those 600, perhaps only 200 had their pardons come through. So you can see the tiny numbers who actually have the strength and the fortitude and the mental capacity to put their requirements on paper.
Okay, Emma, thank you for finding it in yourself to come and share your experiences in this way on our Times Radio station. Emma Riley there. Thank you.
Thank you.